right, well, hello. Welcome to our very first virtual culinary cooking class. So we are so excited to be here today. We've partnered with your health teachers and your school principals to create these culinary cooking classes for you. So you're obviously taking a look here at our recorded session. We're so glad that you've been able to join us today. You were able to pick up all of your materials from your school and get them home, and now we're finally to the fun part. So my name is Ben Ranciere. I'm from the Project Healthy Schools team, and this is...
My name's Staf. I work alongside with Ben.
And we are here today to take you through our very first recipe called Anytime Burritos. So what you're going to notice about a lot of these recipes that we'll be preparing over the next few classes is they're all about creating balanced meals for you. Something that we're going to talk an awful lot about throughout our lessons, and also lessons that you're going to be hearing about within your health classes. So our PHS lesson number 3 is all about my plate, my choice. And it's all about creating balanced meals for you. Now, why do we want to create balanced meals? Because it allows your body the opportunity to get in all a variety of micro and macronutrients, which is an important component of a healthy body, right? We all want to wake up in the morning, we want to feel good, we want to be able to perform at our best, and eating balanced meals is really a big part of that. So what is My Plate? Does anybody know out there what My Plate is? Have you heard of it? Hopefully you have. Staf, what is My Plate?
Does My Plate have something to do with like the foods we need to eat?
It does, yes. It's a tool. And so when you think about a plate, and I should have one here in front of me, but I don't, but think of this as a plate, right? Shape of a plate. So what essentially we're going to do is we're going to divide our plate into 4 equal sections. And we're going to label those fruits, vegetables, proteins, and grains. Also part of My Plate, there's a 5th food group for dairy. And that's just usually just a small portion of a balanced meal is dairy. And so when we create meals, essentially what we want to do is we want to get a variety of micro and macronutrients into the body by making sure that we have a variety of these materials in our meals. So fruits, vegetables should be about half of your plate for every one of your meals. Proteins, about 1/4 of your meal, and grains, about 1/4 of your meal. So our Anytime Burritos today, we've incorporated a lot of these nutrients for you that we're going to work on preparing. So I am going to now turn it over to Staf, who's going to take us through the ingredients that we have here for you today, and he's going to talk about getting those ready, and take it away.
Awesome. Hi guys. So we have a few different tools and a few different ingredients we're going to be using today. The first thing, I'm going to have you guys kind of get out your tools, get them together so we have everything ready. So, some of the required stuff: 1 bowl for mixing, and if you've got a second one, you can use a second bowl. We might use it for the beans. There's a couple other things we can use it for as well. You may or may not need a can opener, so you can grab one just in case. A lot of our cans have these pop tabs, so you might not actually need it. You're also going to want a veggie peeler, so we might use this for our sweet potatoes or some of our other recipes. A fork that you can use to mash the sweet potatoes after they've cooked up. Measuring spoons. This one is a 1/2 teaspoon. That's the one we're going to be using today. You can also have an extra cup or measuring cup just in case. We provided you guys all with these fancy looking knives, so you're going to want to have that. You're also going to have a cutting board that came with your kits, so grab that out for us. And that should be about all the tools you'll need besides your pan additionally. Okay, so let's get into some of the ingredients. So today we're going to be using 2 sweet potatoes, 1 pepper, you guys will probably have a green pepper, 1 red onion, 1 can of black beans. You're going to have some cooking spray, whether that be olive oil or another Pam cooking spray. A little bit of cumin seasoning. And that should really do it for our ingredients and our tools.
So just real quick, at any point, take some time to pause the video. Make sure that you have all of these supplies necessary, because once we get up and going, we're going to get through this. So please feel free at any time to pause the video, get your materials, and then pop back in. So before we start cooking stuff, what should we do with our hands and what should we do with our fresh ingredients?
Okay, So one of the first things we want to do before we do anything when we go cooking is washing our hands. So washing our hands will, reduce the spread of bacteria and keep everything nice and clean. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to use the sink and wash our hands. We're going to scrub for at least 20 seconds with hot water and soap to make sure everything's clean. After that, you're going to want to wash any of your produce. So the onion you don't have to really wash. We're going to be taking the skin off. I would suggest maybe washing your pepper and your sweet potatoes. So what you would do is you'd run it under some hot water in your sink. You can use your hand to kind of scrub it off, get any of that extra dirt. You can use the backside of a sponge to kind of scrape the skin, get any of that additional dirt off. A lot of these vegetables grow outside. So between the dirt and other bacteria that may get on them, we want to make sure that we wash it all off first before we start consuming it. Another kitchen safety tip that we'll be probably using today. So when we use a pan, one of the things that we might run into is we're moving around the kitchen a bit. So safety tip is to always make sure that your pan handle is inward and not out. So when you're walking around, you don't bump into it. Also, if you're ever going to use anything like the stove, or you might grab the pan, it's always a good idea to grab something like a towel or maybe a mitt, because these handles might warm up. If you're reaching in the oven, you don't want to grab anything hot, so grab a towel or a glove and you can pick it on up without any worries. The last thing we're going to talk about is a little bit of knife safety. We'll go over a little bit more next time, but the first thing I want to teach you is an acronym called SAS. So SAS is something we use when we're working with knives. And SAS stands for stop, away, sharp, and store. So the first part, stop, we want to stop and make sure that we kind of clear the area of the things that we don't want to cut. Keep everything we want to cut out, move everything out of the way so we're not messing around with anything extra. The second thing is we're going to always want to cut away from ourselves. So we don't want to use the knife up against our body. We don't want to be using it right on top of our hands. Kind of put it out in front of you. Make sure it's away from the body. Second, so a sharp knife is a safe knife. If you have a dull knife, it's easier to cut your hand, harder to cut the vegetables. So you always want to use a sharp knife, and you want to make sure that it's clean. So when we're cutting into our clean veggies, we're not contaminating it. The last one is store. So store means we're going to store our knives in a safe space. So we're going to put that away from any small kids, little brothers and sisters, stuff like that, so that nobody will get to it that shouldn't. All right?
Okay. Well, are we ready to hop in here and get started on creating our very first recipe of Anytime Burritos? Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind is cooking is always an experience, right? And so we are going to show you a way to prepare these, but we want you to also include your creativity. If you have a seasoning that you like, that you really like, that you want to include in this, great. The nice thing about Anytime Burritos is this is a very versatile recipe, so that you can create this for breakfast one day. And so we're not going to use eggs today, but that is something that you could easily scramble up some eggs, add them in there. If you're looking to do a dinner time recipe for you and the family. So we're going to be creating 6 of these burritos today with the ingredients that we have here for you. And so you're going to be able to share this out with your family, right? Yeah. So if it's dinner time and you're looking to create a dinner time meal, you could add chicken, right, for an extra source of protein as well. So again, as you kind of start into this culinary cooking experience, always use your creativity, use what you like to mix things up. Every time you can switch it up, add a little different seasoning spice here, add a different source of protein here and there. And so you can make these anytime.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we're going to get started with, while I wash the knife, you want to get us started on the cooking of our sweet potatoes?
So Ben, I'll hand this to you. So whenever you guys are handing a knife, don't try to hand it out blade side first. Try to hand it blade side down, and so you can hand the handle to another person, so you guys don't hurt each other. Okay. And then, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna mess with our sweet potatoes. We don't have to worry about taking the skin off or anything right now. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna just take a fork and we're just gonna poke some holes in it. So we're just gonna go around the sweet potato, poke some holes throughout it. It don't have to be a ton, it doesn't have to be super close. Like Ben said, cooking is about having fun, so there's no right or wrong way to do it. Okay. So I don't know if you guys can see that. I just went along the potato, kind of added some holes. That'll help it cook up a little bit quicker when we throw it in the microwave. So I'm gonna do the same thing with this guy. Just throw in some holes. Awesome. So now you guys should have a bunch of holes in your sweet potatoes. We're gonna take these guys. You can put them on top of a paper towel. You can try to put them in a bowl. It doesn't really matter. We're gonna pop open the microwave. We're gonna put these guys in here. We're gonna put, some of you guys might already have microwaves that run at high power. Others don't. So you can always hit the power, knock it up to higher heat. And then we're gonna set it for 4 to 6 minutes. I'm gonna put 6 minutes because we have a little bit bigger sweet potatoes. So we'll start with that.
Okay. Well, while we got the sweet potatoes cooking in the microwave, and hopefully you've got yours in there by now, if you haven't had a chance to get them in there, please, again, pause the video, pop them in there for, depending on the size, if you got a little bit of a smaller one, maybe you get away with 4 or 5 minutes. If it's a little bit larger, feel free to crank that up a little bit to 6, 7 minutes. So, sweet potatoes, awesome source of a lot of important nutrients for your body. And the cool thing about sweet potatoes is they're very versatile, right? And so we're using them here in burritos. We're gonna dice them up, we're gonna cook them, soften them up a little bit, cut them up, chop them up. Sweet potato fries, maybe you've seen or maybe you've had in the past, so you can slice them up thinly and cook them that way for a nice accent. A little bit healthier version of a fry would be a sweet potato fry. And sweet potatoes are an excellent source of beta carotene. And beta carotene is really important for the body because beta carotene helps stop the damage from free radicals. So there's a lot of environmental factors that get into the body and cause these free radicals to cause damage to your cells, right? And so these free radicals play a really key role in the development of heart disease, cancers, and other diseases. So the more beta carotene we consume through our diet, the better chance we're going to push those diseases away from the body. They're also an excellent source of vitamin A. And vitamin A, anybody ever heard of vitamin A? Very important vitamin, does a lot of important things for the body. Number one, vision, right? So you hear about carrots a lot, right? Yeah. Carrots are an excellent source of vitamin A, and they're really important for your vision. Also, healthy skin, right? So keeping that skin healthy, feeling good. Vitamin A will also help with that. And then your immune system. So vitamin A is another important component of a healthy immune system. Anybody ever get a cut? What happens when you get a cut? Sometimes it starts to bleed, right? And so vitamin A helps the body create some blood clotting to stop the bleeding from happening. So again, great source of beta carotene, vitamin A, and that's a main reason why we chose to include them in today's recipe. Awesome. So while these are cooking, what are we going to do with the rest of these vegetables here?
All right. So while you guys got your sweet potatoes going, I want you guys to start on your onions and your peppers. So there's a couple different ways you guys can cut these up. There's no right way, no wrong way. You can cut them into little cubes, long slices, whatever it might be. Today, we're just gonna cut these in the long slices. I think they go a little bit better in the burrito that way. That's how I like it. Feel free to do it however you guys want. So, I'm gonna start with the pepper. When you're preparing a pepper, there's a few different ways to do it, okay? So I'm gonna try to show you a couple different ways of cutting a pepper, open it up, so that you guys can try a couple different things. So the first way, you can always just take your knife, cut down. You cut off a nice little slice, and you don't have to deal with all these kind of rounded edges. Another way is you can cut off the top and the bottom of your pepper. Okay, and you can see I cut the top and the bottom off. Peel it open a little bit, and you're gonna see this middle part kind of pulls away. So I'm gonna take that out. You can use your hands. Only use your knife if you're really careful with it. So sometimes you can come in here, kind of slice off this white inside bit, and then we'll get rid of that. Or you can just take your fingers, come in, and grab out any of this extra white stuff that you don't want in there. If you're not too picky, you can leave it in. Not a big deal. So I'm going to take all this extra scraps and I'm going to get rid of this. Okay. So a little cooking tip for you guys. If you're using tomatoes, if you're using peppers, a lot of these vegetables have a hard outer skin and can sometimes be hard to cut through. Luckily, you guys have a serrated knife. So a serrated knife has these little teeth that help to cut in to veggies, fruit, whatever you're cutting. And it'll help a little bit to get through that skin without a problem. If you're using a normal knife, it's a lot easier if you flip it on the inside. So you cut it, it's going to be a lot easier to cut. You're going to have less issue. So I'm going to cut some of these into bigger strips. And I want to try to keep my fingers away while I'm cutting. And then you can do a push and pull motion, pressing into the pepper, cutting through it, getting these nice long slices. Okay. And then I'll show you another way. So we could do these long slices again, right? And then we can also dice it. So dicing is a little bit like putting it into little cubes. So what I'll do is I'll take my little slices and then I'll kind of come through after I've lined them up and get them into these nice little squares. So these will cook up a little bit quicker than our slices. So depending on how you like it, you might have to do a little bit less heat, a little bit less time. It's just however you prefer. Okay. So I'm going to put that all to the side. The next thing we're going to start on is our onion. So with our onion, there's a couple ways we can do this as well. The easiest first is just to try to cut through the top and the bottom to kind of get rid of these root stems. So we're going to get that cut off so we can get through that. Look at that, our sweet potatoes are done. So I'm going to take a little bit of this extra stuff and I'm going to toss this out. At this time, you guys are going to probably see that the skin of the onion's coming off. So what you can do is you can either take your knife and score it a little bit, which means we're going to cut down just to about this outer purple skin, right, where the onion starts, or I can just peel away and get rid of the skin that way. So I'm going to peel it away. I'll bring a trash can over so you guys will be able to see how I'm doing this. So I've got this part that's kind of opened up right here. I'm just going to go at the skin, kind of start peeling away at it. So you're going to get rid of this kind of reddish outer skin. It's kind of dry. And you're going to peel it down to this nice purple skin. Okay? Might be a little difficult to kind of get it all off. That's no worries. You can eat a little bit of it. It's not going to harm you. Okay. So now, like I said, there's a few different ways of doing this. I found this is kind of the easiest way. I take my knife, and you can kind of see where the middle is, kind of where that root was. I just cut straight down through it. Make sure you're pressing with your knife. And now I got two halves. So like I said, today we're just going to do long strips. So I'll take half my onion. And you might still have a little bit of this root here. So I'm going to go back through, and I'm going to cut off the tops and the bottoms a little bit. Get rid of those guys. And then we're just going to do nice, thin strips of onion. Okay. If you guys don't want to use all of your onion, you don't have to. You can save some of it. You can store it later. I prefer using a bag or something like that, putting it in the fridge. It'll last a little bit longer. Okay, and you guys can kind of see, so nearing the end, it gets a little bit harder to cut these onions. So be really careful with your cutting. If you need to, you can kind of separate them out and get these thinner pieces and do some strips like that, okay? So now we have these guys all prepared up. And I'll let you take over.
Anybody ever have watery eyes when they try to cut an onion? I know it happens to me all the time, right? And so, any ideas on what causes that? No, cutting onions doesn't make us sad, right? But there's a high content of sulfuric acid in the onions, which is an irritant, right? Not harmful to the body, but an irritant to the eyes for sure. And that's sometimes why we get those watery eyes. So a good tip, go quiz your parents on that and see if they know why an onion makes you cry. So the nice thing about these vegetables we have here today is they're very nutrient dense. What does nutrient dense foods mean? It means they have a lot of vitamins in them and minerals, but very low calorie count. And so really, really good for the body, really important part of a healthy diet, right? Remember, how much of your plate should be fruits and vegetables? 50%, right? And so I heard our microwave stop. How do we know when our sweet potatoes are ready for the next step?
So one of the ways we can check, and first thing, don't go right into the microwave and grab this with your bare hand, or you're gonna be playing hot potato with yourself. Either that or your parents, whoever you're cooking with. So, like I said earlier, always try to have a towel or a mitt. It's always gonna come in handy. You're gonna use it for a million different things. You can have multiple towels, you can have one. But you're always gonna use a towel no matter what. So, you can grab one of these guys. Grab it with your, and then you're gonna give it a little poke with your fork. Okay, and I don't know if you guys saw that. Okay, so this one, I kind of had to force it through originally. This is going in really nice and easy. Okay, so that's how we can tell that it's getting done. So I might want to turn it around, just make sure we're kind of cooked all the way through. This one's cooled down a little bit, so I'll put it like that, and we're gonna check our other one.
Make sure it's nice and soft on the inside.
Don't want, it's gonna be hard to mash these if they're tough.
So again, if yours is still a little bit hard, feel free, pause the video, pop it back in. Once you've checked it again after a couple more minutes, rejoin us.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna move some of our stuff over, and I know it might get a little crowded on your cutting board. So what I suggest is if you have another little bowl or something in the kitchen, you can separate it into that to kind of hold all of your extra veggies. So to prepare our sweet potatoes, we're just gonna take the sweet potato. Preferred, I just cut off the top, little off the bottom, little off the top.
Ooh, nice and soft.
Oh yeah. And they're probably still pretty warm. So like I said, try to use a towel to kind of help with that heat. Okay. So, some people like to eat potatoes with skin on. Some people like to eat with skin off. There's no right or wrong way. The skin actually comes with a lot of nutrients and vitamins. And however you prefer, go ahead and do it. Today, we're gonna use a veggie peeler, and we're gonna peel off the skin, and then we're gonna put it in our bowl. So, for a veggie peeler, like I said, hold on to your potato with a towel, and it'll keep that heat. And then you're just gonna use the veggie peeler, and you're gonna kind of peel.
See, now if this is me and I'm making this recipe at home, I'm leaving the skin on, because actually the skin of a potato is my favorite part.
Oh, it gets good. So it looks like this one's kind of little soft to peel. So you can use a peeler at home, or like you see here, it might be soft enough to just kind of peel off with your hands. So if it is, feel free, but careful, because it's gonna be a little hot. I don't know if you guys can see the steam, but it's a little hot. So,
or again, pause the video, take a quick break, let it cool down a little bit. Once it's cooled, peel it off, and you'll be ready for the next step. I think I can help out here, do a little peel myself. This kind of reminds me of
working at home.
My birthday, you know, and I get these presents, and it's the best part of the day, and it's time to unwrap them. But mine is a little warm. Now, we talked a little bit about the health benefits of sweet potatoes, right? The beta carotene, the vitamin A. Our bell peppers, also a really excellent source. In fact, I'm gonna let that cool off a little bit. That's a little hot still.
Yeah.
An excellent source of vitamins and nutrients in our bell peppers as well. So they're really, really high in vitamin C. What are some other foods that you can think of that are really high in vitamin C that maybe you're used to? One thing that really pops into my mind, of course, is oranges, right? Always hear about oranges, right? And the benefits of vitamin C. And how does the vitamin C help the body? The immune system, right? Helps us kind of fight away those germs, keep the body, again, feeling real good. Bell peppers are also very versatile food, kind of we talked about earlier with the sweet potatoes, right?
Yeah.
Bell peppers, I love dipping bell peppers in just hummus. Nice healthy snack there as well. And we're gonna talk a lot about snacks in our next version, recipe 2. We're gonna talk more about healthy snacks, but bell peppers are an excellent, excellent snack food. What if I just do a little score here? And again, try to peel this. All right, oh yeah, that's nice. Again, if I were making this at home myself,
Probably keep the skin on.
I would leave the skin on because I love the skin, and as Staf referenced a few minutes ago, a lot of the nutrients from the potato are contained in the skin. So again, your choice. And we invite you as you kind of create new recipes, try it both ways. See which one works best for you, which one kind of appeals to your taste buds. Okay, so as we finish doing these, we are next. What are we going to work on next? What are we going to do with those peppers and onions?
Okay. So the next thing we're going to start on is sauteing up our peppers and onions. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start up our oven, or our stove. So some of you guys might have electric, some of you might have gas. If you're not quite sure how to use your stove, make sure you grab your parents or you ask them beforehand, hey mom, hey dad, how do I start up the stove? You know, that way you can do it in a safe way, you're not trying to figure it out on your own and cause any accidents. So get that on for me, and we're going to put it to about a medium-high heat. So on your stove, you might see this little crank. It'll be a little circle, okay? One end's gonna say low, one's gonna say high. In the middle, we've got medium. So we're gonna kind of go between the medium and the high setting, okay? I'm gonna get that started up. So we're gonna kind of let that heat up for a second so that we can get it going. We wanna get our pan nice and warm before we add our oil in. So once that heats up, we're gonna add a little bit of our cooking spray, and then we're gonna throw our veggies in. For the moment, we're gonna kind of get working on finishing the potatoes a little bit, just in the meanwhile. Okay. So, some of you guys may have had some of the sweet potato that's still a little hard. If you don't get all of it cooked all the way through, you can try putting it in a little bit longer, or using a fork to kind of scrape out any of the extra that's already soft. After that, you're going to use a fork, and you're going to kind of just get mushing. I kind of use the side of the bowl to help me squash it up. And we're just going to keep pressing. Keep pressing. We're going to try to get that nice and soft. Kind of like a mash. Okay. So once you get it mashed up, it should kind of have that same consistency of like a thicker mashed potato. So we're gonna let that go. Ben, do you have anything?
No, I think, are we ready to start sauteing there?
I think so. So like I said, you guys might have 2 different kinds of ovens at home, or stoves at home. The electric sometimes takes a little bit longer to heat up than a gas, because the gas kind of has a direct flame to the pan. So if you need a second, feel free to take a second, pause the video, let it heat up, and we'll get going. So a good way of testing if your pan is warm, don't put your hand on it. That's a terrible idea to do. The easiest way is take a little bit of water, and this could be in that extra little cup that I had you guys grab. And you don't have to do a lot. Put a little water in there, and you see how it kind of sizzles up? It's gonna sizzle away. So I know my pan's a little hot right now. I'm gonna try to keep my hands away from it. I don't wanna burn my hands. So now, I'm gonna do a little cooking spray. So we're gonna want to coat it nicely and coat it evenly. You don't want too much, but you want a decent bit to get in there. Okay? After that, we're gonna take our veggies. You can have some help with this one, or if you're gonna use one hand, try to cup underneath, and you can brush some of your veggies in there. Get some of your onions, get some of your peppers, get those guys cooking up. So we're just gonna take all of this, toss it out in there, get it going. I'm gonna leave out some of these wonkier pieces for now. Okay. So, you guys are gonna have this cooking. I'm gonna grab this. Probably should have grabbed this before. So you guys might have a spatula or a spoon or something at home. Everything works, so whatever you want to use, fork, knife, spoon, just please don't use this one. That one might melt. Okay. So I'm going to use a little spoon. I'll kind of show you guys. We want to just keep it moving around a little bit. We don't want to mess with it too much because the point is to get a nice little bit of cook on all the different sides. So sauteing is kind of a technique, but also a style of cooking. So sauteing itself is kind of a movement of the pan. Sauteing the cooking is also kind of this general way of cooking it, kind of keeping it moving. And people saute in different ways. So we're going to go for about 5 minutes here. Some people go for about 3, 4, 5 minutes, throw in a little bit of water at the end to kind of let the veggies steam up. So we're just going to kind of let these guys go for a second.
So now the longer that we saute it, how does that change the texture? If I want a little bit of a crunchier feel, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like a real mushy feel, how would I adjust my cooking time?
Okay. So if you guys use a little bit more oil or you let it cook for longer, the squishier, the mushier it's going to kind of get. It's going to lose that kind of crisp, crunchy, texture. So what we want to do is we kind of want to keep it in here, kind of moving around. We want to make sure that we toss it so that all sides are getting cooked up. Okay. For ours, we're going to try to keep it a little bit of crunchy, so we're going to keep it in there for a little bit less time. Yeah, that way you can kind of keep that snappy texture.
Okay. Well, how about I keep an eye on those?
Awesome.
And what's next? I think we just got a couple ingredients left. What are we doing with these?
Okay. So I'll hand that off to you, Ben.
Okay.
Okay. So you guys should have a can of beans, like we said in the beginning, right? A lot of them have these pop tabs. Some don't. Ours does, fortunately. So I'm going to pop that open, just kind of like Coke, and we're going to pull back. So one of the things I want you guys to be careful with is when you pop this tab off, it's going to be sharp, okay? So try not to get it around your hands. Don't go smacking it, throwing it, okay? The easiest way, because you guys are going to see there's a bunch of liquid in here. If you hold the tab so that just a little bit of the open can is showing so we can pour out some of that juice, that's the easiest way to drain that. At home, you guys might also have a couple different types of strainers. So this is kind of like what you guys might have at home. Some people have something like this. You can also pour the beans in here, let the juice flow out, and then kind of rinse them. Today, we're just going to empty it from the can. So I'm going to take my can, like I said, with a little bit of it open. Not too much because then the beans are going to fall off. And I'm going to kind of let the juice just kind of drain out into the sink. And then I'm going to rinse that down. Okay, you might see here at the end, it's flowing a little bit. You can try to throw in, if you don't like that extra juice, it's a little saucy too much, you can add a little bit of water in here. Shake it around, clean the beans a little bit. And you can keep going until it's clear, you can keep going. Or leave it as is. We're just going to keep going a little bit. And we're going to pour out some of that extra juice. Awesome.
Now, as you're kind of working your beans here. Make sure you're checking over here on your sauteed vegetables. Ours are looking pretty good. I'm seeing a little bit of browning starting to happen, starting to soften up a little bit. I think they're definitely smelling good. Definitely looking good as well.
Okay. So to get our beans ready, I grabbed an extra bowl here. You don't have to. You can do it straight from the can if you don't want to heat it up or anything. Some people prefer it cold, some people like it warm. I know I prefer it warm, so I'm going to heat mine up. I know Ben likes it, out of the can or just as is. So he would just pour it right in and, have it right with his burritos. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour the can into this extra bowl we got here. Kind of empty it out. I can use a spoon if there's anything left over. Fortunately, there's not.
Now, not only is Staf pouring the beans in the bowl, he's also pouring a lot of fiber into that bowl because beans are an excellent source of fiber. Anybody ever heard of the word fiber before? Very, very important part of a balanced, healthy diet. And because it really helps with your digestive system, number one, right? And number two is it helps maintain your blood sugar levels. So whenever you eat food, it's broken down by the body and released in sugar in the body with a lot of foods that we eat. And so what we're trying to avoid is those sugar spikes, right? So you ever eat like a piece of candy or something with a high sugar content, and you kind of get wired for a few minutes, and then you kind of get a little groggy. So beans and fiber are a great way to kind of even out and maintain those blood sugar levels throughout the course of the day. Also a lot of protein in beans. Protein has part of our My Plate, an important part of My Plate. How much of your plate should be protein? 25% of each of your meals should be a protein-based food, and fiber is beans are an excellent source of that. So, what are we going to do with our beans now?
Okay. So the next thing we're going to do with our beans, so we've got our beans in a bowl, we've got our beans in the can, whatever we want to do. We're going to take our teaspoon, our half teaspoon, and we're going to take a little bit of our cumin. And I'm just going to scoop a little bit of that. So, does anybody know how to kind of level it off? Some of you might, some might not know. So one of the easiest ways, sometimes people use a knife at home. I'm going to use the back of the spoon today. I'm going to hold it over the open bag and use the back of the spoon to kind of just level it off. Sometimes you make a mess, sometimes you don't. That's okay. You're going to take your half teaspoon.
I always make a mess.
That's the fun part. You got to make a mess. Unfortunately, you have to clean it up, but it's the fun part. So I'm going to throw a little bit of cumin in there, and then I'm going to give it a little stir. So kind of make sure that it gets incorporated with everything. And then if you see any cumin still sitting around, you probably didn't mix it well enough. So you can just keep mixing it up a little bit.
Now I want to, if I could, draw attention to our pan here with our vegetables in it, and you'll see kind of browning up, nice and soft. So these are ready to go. So I've got my stove now cranked all the way down to the lowest heat source of simmer until we're ready to use those, which I think we're getting real close.
Oh yeah? So, like I said, once you guys finish your beans, some of you guys can throw it in the microwave if you want. If you look on the back of your can, it has heating instructions. So if you guys want to heat them up, feel free to do that. Pause the video and go ahead and warm them up real quick. If not, we're going to start kind of putting this out and putting our burritos together. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of clear our area off, okay? One of the hard parts is once you get too much going on in the kitchen, you got all these leftover supplies, bowls, plates. Try to make sure you clean up while you're going or kind of put things in the sink as you're moving so you don't get a crowded kitchen. Okay. So now you guys should grab those tortillas we gave you guys. You're going to open it on up. Grab out one tortilla, start, and we can put it on a plate. Doesn't matter what kind of plate, round, squared. They're all the same. You're going to take a little bit of your sweet potatoes, and you can put it right there in the middle. It's okay if it gets messy. Okay. And then
we're going to take a little bit of our beans. Put them on top. Doesn't matter what order you do this in. You can do it in whichever order makes you happy. And then last, we're going to grab a little bit of our onions and our peppers. If you guys have tongs at home, that might be an easier way to transfer it. We just have a fork right now, so I'm just going to pick up some of this, drop it in there, no big deal. You can also kind of scoop it out the edge. So now just make sure it's it doesn't have to look pretty. I like making mine look pretty. It makes me feel like it tastes better. And then once you've got it all kind of in there, there's a few different ways to do a burrito. I've never really learned how to do it properly. So I always just kind of fold in the ends, fold in another end, tuck it in there nice. Kind of looks like an envelope, like you're getting ready to send mail. And just kind of squeeze it and roll it. Not the prettiest looking thing, but it
looks beautiful to me. It looks tasty to me. Now, we started with talking about My Plate, right? So real quick, let's just do a review of My Plate. What parts of My Plate, what food sources, categories of My Plate do we have included here? So our sweet potato is an excellent vegetable, right? We also have, what are some other vegetables that we've included in this? The onions, the peppers, and again, the sweet potato. So we've got an excellent source of vegetables in there. We've got our grains, which is our tortilla, a grain-based tortilla. And we have our protein through the beans. So which of the food groups are we missing? Fruit, right? So if this were me, I could accent this with maybe a few strawberries, mango, a little citrus, a little mango maybe on the side would be a nice source. And we're going to talk a lot more about mangoes in recipe number 2. So we've done it. You've created your first meal, right? So you should have hopefully enough here to make about 6 burritos to share with your family. If you have leftovers, we can put some aluminum foil around these. We're going to individually wrap these up, the ones that we don't eat, and we can put them in the freezer and freeze them until we're ready to eat them in the next day or over the coming weeks, but they should be good in the freezer for at least a month or 2. So, Staf, well done. This was fun.
Thanks,
I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys did as well. And as we'll let you get to eating the best part, your delicious Anytime Burrito. Again, very versatile. So if you want to save one for breakfast, add some eggs to it. Add maybe a little avocado. I like spice, right? I like to spice up my foods a little bit. So maybe I'm going to add a little salsa for a breakfast or a dinner burrito. So we thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you again next week for recipe number 2. So, see you next week.
See you guys.